There it goes. What's up, YouTube? Podcast woo. There's, I guess there's a couple things. Stefan went to the Salem regionals, yesterday when we're at the time of recording is, yeah. But
Yesterday, yeah.
at the
I
time
was
of
so
recording,
tired.
yeah,
Yeah, I was so tired on the trip home too.
I bet. Considering that you stayed up, you messaged the group at like 1 or something like that in the morning, and I didn't say anything, but I was just thinking you should be in bed. But
Did I message it at, was it 1 when I messaged?
it was after midnight.
I was like, 'cause I was sitting there and I was thinking about it. And that had to have been in yeah, I was in the hotel room at that point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, it was about 1 because Trevor was watching South Park. Um oh, he
Trevor.
turned it on himself. So here's a follow-up story.
Okay.
So like we get this hotel a long time ago, and Michael was here for this one. Michael
Mm-hmm.
turns on the TV while I'm helping Trevor and testing a deck with him. AJ, I think, is off laying on the floor, being AJ. And Trevor and I are like playing, and I'm playing a flu deck. I don't remember what Trevor's playing, but we're
He's
testing,
playing
and
branded.
oh yeah, he was playing Branded at that time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael turns on South Park, and Trevor's just sitting there looking and listening. Mind you, the two worst episodes that you could possibly have a person who's never seen South Park before were off. That's the one where everyone's like getting the plastic surgery stuff to become like dolphin, and you know, oh that
Mm-hmm.
episode, right? And I think the one time he looks at the screen, it's actually showing the actual surgery being done,
Yeah, and he
and,
gagged.
and he gags. And then the next episode you watch, I believe, is the World of Warcraft one comes
Mm-hmm.
on. And that one's pretty wild too, okay? So we get to the hotel. We drove all over Salem at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um AJ and I have ran off to another shop because one of the things that he had broke and we need to get a replacement for it. And we get back and Trevor has the TV on. This time though, we're watching the home building channel thing where they like go through houses and try and convince people to get the other houses and stuff, which I don't hate that show,
Mm-hmm.
but that show is so boring. But when you're practicing for a Yu-Gi-Oh event, it's actually not that bad to just have people talking in the background and going over homes and stuff. So him and I get done practicing. I'm teaching him how to play Ryziel, right? And he's doing pretty good. Like this is the actual in-person testing he finally gets to do with me, where I can stop him. We're not in an auto simulator, and we go, "Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?" And then uh, I learned really fast that the best way for me to actually teach him is let him make the wrong plays, and then at the end of it, explain to him why they were wrong, and so he could see why it's not correct to go those paths or why he should stop certain things rather than correct him in the middle, and it kind of tilts him if I do that. So like that's that story. So he turns on the TV's channel surfing and sees South Park, puts it on. He's sitting there watching it, and he watches a good 3 to 4 episodes of it, and they're pretty normal episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the music industry one, the one where the casino natives are trying to take South Park from them, and then like the last one I remember before I actually crashed out was the old people with guns just taking over the city trying to get back their driver's license.
Oh,
Oh, and the metrosexual one too, the
okay.
crab people,
Yeah.
crab, all of those ones. And so he's watching this and he's actually like he's invested in it. And so we get to the event and he's like, "Yeah, I've been watching South Park." And like at the end of the day, he goes, or maybe it was the middle of the day, he's like, "Where do you think I could watch South Park at on like a streaming service?" I'm sitting there going, "Oh no."
I think Hulu or Max has it.
Yeah,
I don't
like I
remember
think
which
someone said
one.
a Max or Hulu had like all the episodes and you could
Yeah.
watch them all. So like that's that. But so the event itself, I played all 8 rounds, which is pretty wild for me. I usually don't because A lot of times I find regionals to be chores.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if the format's awful, this format's been very good. I piloted Ryziel and I faced Malice almost every round except for like 3. Um, quick tip for anyone that actually plays against Malice: if they activate a card and they're in the battle phase or they're trying to do something and you want to know what that card does, when they set the card, don't read it immediately. Just remember its name, and you can probably vaguely remember what it does. Because a lot of your Malice players that are playing right now don't know what their cards do. Um, one time the person went, I got the damage. He was going through all the combos. I'm like, I know how he beats me. And he gets to it and he's doing the math and he gets there and he goes to battle phase and he goes attack, 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 attack. And I think he activates TB11, which summons from the deck.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the one that does that. Yeah, TB11, sock drawer. Yeah. He goes, TB11, banish, specialist from the deck. Chessie defeats you. And I go, no, it doesn't. What? You can't activate its effects, and it can't attack this. And it can't attack. Neither player can activate its effects. And you're like, what? And I grab the card, read it, and like, yeah, right there. And he just picks up Riza. Pass turn. I end up losing that game still, but you if you stop and read Malice cards, sometimes you can really find the skilled players and the players that just picked up the deck because they like its gameplay. Um, the gameplay of Malice is very fun. Even I, watching the deck, was like, I really want to pick this up and play it, but I'm kind of already dedicated to playing Ryziel. It's what I have. So I won 4 rounds, lost 4 rounds. My last round was probably winnable, but I mean, round 8, X and 3, I'm not topping, not at that size of an event. My opponent played a very fun deck. Um, this deck was Mimigol. Want to know what the spice of that Mimigol? Did I tell you what the spice of the Mimigol was?
I don't think you did.
So the spice of the Mimigol is he's running Tempai package.
Oh.
You want to know something?
Hmm.
There is that big Tempai that can just flip something face up.
It forces, yeah, it forces all monsters to attack position.
Yeah, yeah, you want to know what you can do in a Mimi Gold deck with that? Just give them weak idiots that they can't do anything with, and then go to the battle phase and just go, Tempai stuff, kill game. Dude was X and 3 with that deck, and I was just looking at because the first game is Mimi Gold, and he goes Tempai, and like I immediately go into Stefan mode,
Mm-hmm.
and Stefan mode, by the way, is oh my god, this is really cool, and like everyone's kind of listening. Finally, and then I go, I'll figure this out afterwards, and then go back to serious, play mode.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, like he beats me because I go, yeah, I can't beat that. He gets me in last game with it. I bricked hard. Like we're talking the level of bricking that actually made Josh quit the tournament when he was X and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like his deck was doing that, you know. But I just sat there and after it was over, I'm like, the sauce, tell me. Um, Another fun deck that I faced off against was Adventure PK Fire. The person had just come back to the game and borrowed a PK Fire adventure deck from a friend. And I had this surreal moment, me yapping again about the tournament, but I guess I had a surreal moment where I'm playing through Ryziel combos, I'm doing everything smoothly, all the stuff, declaring everything, explaining everything perfectly. And my opponent goes, you're really good at this deck, and you're really smooth at your plays. What are you doing here? Like, why are you at these tables? And I had to look at him and go, well, you see, what happened was 3 really good players beat me. I lost to a Ryziel Fiendsmith deck. I want to say I lost to a Malice deck. What was the? There was another loss somewhere in there too. but I did face most Malice players I can beat. So I'm thinking, I know the third loss was to Ryziel,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a very good player. Him and I had the best game ever, and I'll say it's the best game ever because I drew a hand, played my back row, and then he drew his hand and did things. I interacted, he would interact back, and we kind of really back and forthed it and got to like play the actual game. It wasn't either side just gun smoking the other, which happens so often in Ryziel deck, and the top decks right now, you can still gun smoke the opponent, but we were so interactive afterwards. Like we sat there and then he finally went, that was really fun game. And I was like, yeah, I actually had a lot of fun. And he was like, why are you playing Solemn Judgments? They cost you so much life points. I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to see that now that I might have messed up.
Uh,
But there was also a play where I could have crossed out his ice and left it on the field and not let him go into Bisteel. So I see where I messed up.
you you and him had the best game ever. Me and you've had the worst game ever. It's-
I've had the worst game ever with Trevor too, where, well, it was pretty similar to that game,
mm,
actually, where we both drew hand traps and interaction, and we were just kind of back and forth in it and just playing actual Yu-Gi-Oh. I've done that with Trevor, but it was worse for Trevor because he wasn't drawing anything, and he stopped one ice play, and I just kept beating his face with Ryziel Ice.
it's
And
like
you've done that to me.
in our worst game ever, I had like full combo, but Stefan had enough hand traps to stop me, and all I could do was make the alien 1900 beat stick and then start attacking. Uh,
I did that to Trevor.
and against Stefan, the rest of my hand was nothing but hand traps, talking like imperm, droll, and all that. So it was like, no, no.
Caveman beat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then one game which I know you still have the recording because you have a recording and it's called "Every Card Got Me There."
Every card counts. Yeah,
Every card counts. I did that at the regional.
you won with
Activate
no
Pod
cards in deck.
Desires. Yeah, activate Pod Desires. Ban 10. Draw 2. Opponent. Okay, we play a little bit more. Gets back to my turn. Ryziel Field Spell. Put 2 on the bottom. Draw a card. Okay, me. Do this and that. Your turn. Comes back to my turn finally again, and I go look at him like no more Field Spell activation. Look at my hand. Pod Desires. I'm like, activate pot, ban 10, draw 2, and like my deck has 2 cards left in it. And I just go, do this, search. And he's all, can you even resolve that? Yes. Grab it. Special sword. Attempt to search for ice. And he's all, do you even have a target left in the deck? Yeah, it's my last card. Add it. Special, go for game. That Malice player ended up beating me in the match because I screwed up in a few spots, but that game, it basically tilted him that
Mm.
I just snapped back and did all of that. I could see it just kind of, but he held pretty fast on it, and I was actually like stop like going, no, your card can't do that, or no, your card can't do that. That's not what Malice cards do. Note, I have been no lifing this format for, well, since Ryziel came out here in TCG, so not many people know as much about the Malice matchup as I do because a lot of people really like to play that deck. To quote a friend, Robert, people just like losing for fun. Why aren't they playing this deck correctly when he plays them online? They
Mm.
like throwing for fun. So that was basically my regional experience in 2 weeks. I have like another one coming up. That's
Yeah,
where I'll get my top.
I'm still on the fence about going to that. It pretty much comes down to if I can get the cards. Um, but it's I didn't go to this one. I don't have a deck really ready for this format. I don't have Fiendsmith, so I can't play tier Fiendsmith. Otherwise, I would. I don't have. The Mitsurugi cards aren't out in TCG yet, so I don't have the snake deck ready. I could play snakes as is, but they're not good as they are now. But I could play Gold Pride. As it turns out, one of the cards kind of really hurts Oriziel or slows him down. It can. Um, but
I mean, that game was probably a little bit more winnable for me if I wasn't playing two different simulators at the same time.
mhm,
That was not very fun. I should never do that again.
but yeah. It sounds like regionals was fun. I know, like you said, Josh got tilted because the deck kind of just kept bricking on him, and he kept drawing nothing
Couple
but
better.
yeah. Uh, Robert got tilted at the last round. Um, but
He did the correct thing in the last round, by the way. He could have left the game as a draw, and that would have been a top 8.
mm-hmm,
Um, but he went for the correct play, which was activate the trap to banish the card.
mm-hmm,
What's her nut that can special summon herself back and draws you a card, and then she can set the trap, and then you can activate. He could activate the trap, banish another malice, and gain the life points to win the game. But what happened was when he activated her effect, paid cost, their life points were the same, then they weren't because he equalized them. They weren't the same. And the opponent goes Ash Blossom. And he
oh,
just punts it there. And like he was tilted and frustrated, but I still 1000% he was aiming for, second place
mm-hmm,
for second, third, or fourth, he did the right thing. I mean, he ended up in like 12th place still, but
yeah,
I mean, he was trying to, actually get first.
mm-hmm.
He was there. He was so close to first or second, obviously second, but it didn't work out that way. And
Uh,
so,
I know him and AJ already got their tops and everything. So,
uh, four, I think like, this would be like fifth, four, gotten at least four invites Robert has. So,
mm-hmm,
um, AJ got his from one of those mini uh, Yu-Gi-Oh! Day-esque things that they do. I just found that out, by the way. I was at the event. I was joking with AJ, and I'm like, haha, if we face each other, I would have to beat you to get my invite, and you'd have to beat me to get yours. And he's like, I already have my invite, Stefan. And he's like, did you forget I got my invite? And I was like, yeah. I'm the only one who doesn't have an invite. And he was like, and then Trevor pipes in, well, me and Josh don't, so I'm the only one that doesn't have an invite.
uh,
As I was giving them a little bit of a
uh,
ribbing there.
I assume because it was Salem, it was ran very smoothly and
Oh,
everything.
dude, best.
Yeah, because
I do have my Seattle playmat though. I have this little tiny playmat now.
because typically for the viewers, we've mentioned it a few times, but typically Salem regionals always run really smoothly, and
Rounds ran on time.
yeah, the
We
Salem
started
regionals,
almost perfectly on time. We
yes,
almost were perfect on time.
Salem almost every Salem, I think every Salem regional actually I've ever been to has done that. It's been like right on time, everything works out. Time runs a little bit over every now and then for rounds, but it's not like the end of the world. It's usually like an extra 5 minutes at most and everything. So it's not like
Towards the end, it was like immediately it ends, and we only had like a minute or two. It's just like, bam, next round. I'm just gonna.
mhm. And Salem provides like water
Oh,
usually.
yeah, the water is a big thing.
So it, it's great. Like Salem usually runs really smoothly. Seattle, we're usually shoulder to shoulder and just kind of shoved in there into a room,
I have an example.
even if the regional is smaller than Salem. It's usually
Like this is the playmat
mm,
that I got. It's about that size. So to give you a comparison, standard Yu-Gi-Oh mat, playmat's falling off my desk, is like that.
yeah.
Like that little tiny mat is about the amount of space that it felt like I always have at Seattle. So I have my Seattle playmat.
Mm. It's Seattle, yeah. Uh Seattle, we're really like shoved in there. The only downside about Salem regionals is while Salem they almost always give a lunch break, there's no food in the available walking area to get to.
Oh, I found another nice little cafe.
Oh,
And they had a really good, I know you don't like the ranch, so you just say no ranch on it, but it was a bacon chicken ranch sandwich
oh, cool. Cause we went to
at a
that.
little cafe.
Cause we went
I
to
was trying to find that one. I was trying to find that place again, but we overshot it, I think, and found a different cafe.
it's literally like almost diagonal from when you walk out and
I
everything.
know.
Cause like right across the street is a pub, and then like you just walk a block, you just walk like diagonal, and it's like right there and everything.
Yeah, we overshot and like, where's this place? Like, oh, I think we overshot it, but then we saw a cafe. I'm like, oh, let's check out that. We thought we were gonna get like small little Starbucks down. No, good size, really good chicken with like bacon and tomato. And I'm not a vegetable eater.
Mm,
I ate the tomato on it too, and it was great.
yeah, we went. Last time I was with you, we went to this like ta- alcohol tasting place. That's the only way I could describe it because I'm pretty sure it's like a
Like a
wine tasting
caf-
place.
it was kind of like a cafe with a bar attached, but
Uh,
with wine and stuff.
it was wine and beer, and I think it's meant
Yeah,
to like specifically because their whole menu was almost all alcohol. So like, uh, and then they had like regular food because in Oregon State you can't serve alcohol without serving food.
same
It
in Washington.
and everything. So you they didn't ID us either, but it doesn't matter. We very much look like we're we.
I bought a pack of cigarettes the other day and didn't get ID'd.
I haven't gotten ID'd since I was like 24. But yeah, it's but yeah, that's my only real complaint about Salem is that like there's no easy to get to food that's like right by it other and everything because even though that place was good that we went to we had to wait quite a while and then we got a game one loss for it so it
Yeah,
um but it the cookies there were good. They had like salt on them, a salt on chocolate chip cookies to really bring out the flavor. But yeah, it Salem usually is like ran really smoothly, and I have nothing but praise for it. Seattle runs decently smooth. It's just that you're crammed and it's so hot in there because there's usually so many people, or if there's like even if there's like the same amount, it's such a smaller space that you're like there's so many bodies that's like right next to you.
it doesn't need to be that cramped though. There is so much more table space that they could be utilizing.
There's also a whole other room that
There
that's
is, and I know that they utilize that for like, the
like
alternative formats and stuff, but it's just so obnoxious
we've
that there's like so many empty tables that can be utilized that they
yeah.
just don't.
There's also at Seattle in that other room. Uh, when on one of the bigger regionals that Seattle had, the lower rounds got put in there. So like the real low ones got thrown in there, and it was so nice because it was cool and and everything. It was so like chilled in there. It wasn't like freaking really warm or anything. And yeah, but Salem usually runs really well. And the two I've been to in Portland have both were both horrible. They both ran terribly. They both started late, and I was
Wonder why they haven't ran another one in a while, huh?
I used to I remember I used to complain about not about us not getting Portland ones because Portland's a major city and everything. Why don't we get Portland ones? And then I went to like two, and both times it was bad, and I was like, okay, well, I understand why. Portland ones also usually had like low attendance too, like if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they were quite as big.
Like Seattle usually pushes 300.
This last one was 198 or like 200. It was very close to. We
Mm,
had down to top. Well, first round or first thing they said it was just top 16,
yeah.
and then they made an announcement like, "Oh, we were wrong. It was it's top 24."
Mm,
That's actually a major improvement on, and the attendance there is fine. Everyone, people were actually traveling from fairly decent distances to get there. Like that's a good sign because the thing with Seattle is bulk of it
mm,
feels like it's just local people, 'cause you really don't see too many of the Seattle crowd in the,
yeah.
or in the Salem one.
I know that in
Like,
Seattle, sometimes when I talk to people in Seattle, they'll be like, "Yeah, I flew all the way from like Chicago and stuff to play here," but like most of it's
yeah.
like, "Yeah, I live somewhere in Washington," just like would say, just like the general area that they live in. I live in this area, or I live in this city, and everything. Oh, I live like an hour drive away, and I'm like, oh yeah, I live like 3 hour drive away. It's like, yeah, yeah, and everything. So,
I'm thinking for Seattle, we'll probably end up with a hotel.
Seattle, I'll definitely play at, uh, just because I'll definitely be able to get the cards by then.
Yeah.
I have a whole month, and given the rarities, I don't think they're gonna be like the deck's gonna be too expensive because there's like two ultras, a super, and then the rest are common.
Well, some people are trying to do that Mitsurugi Ryzeal deck stuff.
Yeah,
I think people are just trying to blend Ryzeal with everything, but I think Pure is gonna never Pure and Fiend Smith variant's going to be top. They're next that they get the new Exceed that just makes the deck ridiculous.
yeah,
To quote a very good Malice player, he goes, "We no longer get to play the 1-for-1 game with Ryzeal whenever they have a plugin attached to their monster that they're just going to keep recycling to it.
hmm they
Their plugin gets equipped to them."
so yeah, Supreme Darkness has Eclipse of the Twins, or Twins of the Eclipse, which is the card that that Malice player was talking about. Uh, but uh, Alliance Insight has Heraldic Beasts, and I was pumped just because they're Heraldic Beasts, and I misread what they said at first, so I was like, no. I didn't realize they don't walk you. They just say that you can only use heraldic beasts as materials when you use that effect, like certain very specific effects. So in the Ryzeal deck, you just don't use those effects until the end because they also say for the rest of the turn. So and if nothing gets hit, there's a easy hand loop that can be played through disruption. In fact, I did it to Stefan, and he hand trapped me like twice, and I just made it easier for me. So I just
I just gave up 2 cards.
mm-hmm. So it's like it.
See, and that's when they like hand trap you and you have some left over, you just start going into the cowboy plays.
Yeah, I do. Uh, with the heraldic beast stuff, you can loop any once per turn Xyz. What, as long as it's generic and three or 2 or 3 materials, you can activate it. If it's 3 materials, you can activate it up to 5 times, and if it's if it's 2 material Xyz, you can do it 6 times. So,
Oh,
so like with King of the Farallons, if you really wanted to, you could just sit there and add like 6 cards, 6 reptiles. I don't know why you would, but you can.
I guess is he once per turn?
King, King soft.
No, I was thinking about Garnet.
Uh, oh, the Gallant guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's soft or hard once per turn, but you got you got to do the play though once at regionals, right?
Yeah, I did it a few times actually. So the play is don't use ice as normal summon.
Mm-hmm.
Um and you have to almost set up a charisma check on your opponent too. Because in game one, if you can weave Gallant Garnet into your plays, you overlay them and you detach and you search out Nib,
Mm-hmm.
and then your opponent goes, "Well, shit, he's using that to get a Nib." So there's also this thing that the opponent will let that play through sometimes, thinking that you're going to search Nib if they think they can deal with the Nib, and instead you just go Psych, Fossil Dyna, at it, normal summon Fossil Dyna. Now neither of us can special summon, and you back that up with back row. So my Mala or not Mala, my Ryziel deck actually converts into a lot more back row stuff to protect the field and control the other player. So I go from my normal deck just being hand trap, everything, to a lot of the hand traps get reduced down to one or two, depending on how impactful I think they are. So I still have cross out targets.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns into my traps and everything just kind of protect and make it so that I can get back to my turn, that on the snapback I can defeat them. Because usually Malice players will burn through all their life points, and even if they're going to use the card to regain it, you can still just keep them in check, knowing that they're just burning away their life,
I got a
and so
question
you can
for
just
you.
OTK.
Uh, for sighting. So I've noticed this. I've started doing this, and I've really been liking it. Have you tried citing out crossout designators for when you're going second?
I side out to two of them usually. I will keep them in Ryziel specifically because you just basically in the pure version you lose to D barrier.
Oh, got ya.
So you
Yeah.
want them in games two, but going first, I can reduce it to two because effectively I'm not afraid of D barrier. A lot of the hand traps are non. The only hand trap you really worry about is Droll and Lockbird, but that's still a crapshoot too, because sometimes a Droll doesn't do very much to the Ryziel board. It just makes it where you end on Detonator. Um,
Yeah.
there is a correct play, like end on Detonator. Uh, Another thing that I do in Ryziel is I call it playing into the wind
Mm-hmm.
or playing into the storm. If my opponent has like four or five cards in their hand and it feels like they haven't been interacting with my stuff, that means that statistically speaking, they probably have one interaction for the duo drive. So they'll let you gain as much advantage as you want until you go for duo drive. Don't go to duo drive. You can always just go to you can always make it where you don't summon five and you just go straight into
Detonator.
detonator. Most opponents just sit there and what? And like they just because when I go, oh, I'm gonna overlay two, and they go, I wonder what you'll make, and you make the detonator. Usually they go a little quiet because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go for duo drive, and my build's running two of the field spells so that I can side them out if I'm going second, just a free side out. So you're not gonna need that negation or recovery going second. Going second, you're just getting through their board,
Yeah.
which your Ryziel naturally does. Um, so the field spell, if you run two of them, you're gonna see them in opening and more hands. Last round I did brick on that because I drew two of the field spell, plug in, and the trap, which I'm cutting the trap. I don't remember what the fifth card was, but it was not getting me there. It might have been a cross out. So, I mean, that was such an awful hand that I just sat there and went, okay, that's acceptable. Now I'm not going to play the trap. It's arguable to even play the plug-in whenever the Exceed comes out.
I think there's an argument to still play it,
There
but
is.
uh, but the trap, I get it, right? In fact,
Not
when
once did I use it in the whole entire 8 rounds that I played.
in,
Almost 20 games, I'd say,
well, in
roughly.
the list that Trevor posted to the thing and asked how what you think about the Rhizio list, and I was looking at it. I was like, this is a very standard list. The only difference is they took out the Rhizio trap card and was playing Gravedigger's trap hole, and had Reflusia in the extra deck. So
Yep.
it was very like I was like, this looks pretty standard outside of that. So it just feels like the trap isn't needed because they cut the Rhizio trap for that.
I cited out the Rysdale trap so much. It wasn't worth it. There's also the version Trevor played. I actually faced it in the tournament and I beat them. That was the game where game one, I beat my opponent. My opponent goes first and goes, all right, you did this to me, so you can't, get angry. And he did the feather storm thing, and I went, okay. And we went to game three, and I went, you can't get angry at me for what I'm about to do. And he goes, nah, I feather stormed you. It's fine. So I just sit there, I draw my hand, and I do the whole combo, and then I just summon out the fossil dyna, and he goes, oh, it's fine. I can't X. It's fine. I just normal summon stored. I can attack over, and I just go flip solemn judgment. And just kind of sit there and okay, you lose, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Good day. And he just kind of sat there and he went, he's like, I like the feather storm better than this, and like the people around us are just looking at this game like, the hell? This is wild. And like the other person's like, I do agree, the feather storm probably is better. I'm like, oh yeah, because he activated thrust and just got it from the deck because I asked him once.
Mm-hmm.
So
Uh, so that was Stefan's regional experience. I was keeping track at home and everything after each report, and I had everyone's records written down at everything. But that's how that went. What do you think, Stefan, about the talk that there should be more Yu-Gi-Oh formats, or at least more supported ones, because there is a whole plethora of unique decks that have no real place to shine. I mean, I have my answer. I have two answers of where these decks should go, but I want to hear your take because 'cause it's it's a thing that's been talk people were talking about on Twitter, and all the other creators were talking about. I figured I'd get your perspective as a more competitive player.
um so we play through classic formats.
Hmm.
A lot of decks have places that where they belong there in classic formats. There are decks, like you said, that have no place and they really don't belong anywhere unless it's a super underwhelming format or it's just a wild format. Domain format. Let's go with that. Oh, I play it. I haven't played it in months, but I do like the fact that decks can excel there, and you can play decks that normally wouldn't be playable, and it's a format that gives it a home to. Because with your play group, you can determine the different levels of how powerful decks going to play. Um, People thinking that there needs to be formats that are like almost like in Magic when they had tiny leaders, you know,
Yeah.
how they were trying to push that. And they're trying to do that Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't think that works as well. I think Time Wizard formats is a very correct thing.
So
I just wish there was more events for those for all the varieties of them, and that more people played a lot of the other formats too. But I don't genuinely I'm not one to think that it should be supported that much because we get into the Magic the Gathering EDH problem, where you start creating cards for the sake of them existing in that,
Hmm.
and then they become these really powerful queued in specifically for that. And I feel like that just allows like you can have players open up packs and suddenly they get this card that's only good for EDH and they don't play it. They're just a typical kitchen top play standard with my friends every Friday night because our local still does
Hmm.
Friday night standard for us. Um, Konami should print cards for the sake of printing terrible cards because if every single card has a use or utilization in something, that creates stagnation in the format. There are a lot of cards that are super underwhelming to start with. Droll and Lockbird never seen very much play until years later when we started getting more decks that started adding to the hand and people finally went, yeah, that rare card from that set that only had one printing at the time and it was only a first edition printing, that card's crap. Vanity's emptiness. Decks just were slow enough that you flipped vanities on the opponent and it was like, I can't special summon. Oh well, I'll
Yeah.
just make sure something of yours gets sent to the graveyard. That card, crap. Terrible card. I first saw that card in a 10-cent box and the card was worthless. And I went, this card's never going to be good. It's terrible. But then it became the biggest, best card of a whole entire format and a few after it. And I went back to that 10-cent box and tried to find that card. Someone else had snagged it. So cards need to be terrible. Magic Gathering has the best card I've ever seen printed. You know what that card is?
Hmm.
One with nothing.
Oh, yeah. The best worst card is
The
what that
best
card's.
worst card.
That's what that
I
card is
call it the
called.
best card ever. That card right there exists, and it exists as a rare too, right? I'm
No,
pretty sure
it's either a rare or uncommon.
yeah, it exists in a thing where
And
it
what's
is an
what what's
awful card.
crazy? What's crazy about that card? It's a 1 mana, discard your hand. That's all it does. What's crazy about that card is it saw very fringe side deck play at one point because there was this weird deck that like burnt and had to do something or that did damage or did something that involved the opponent's hand and it was better just to discard it. But my take, all right, so I guess I should have cleared things up. The argument is that like what about the argument of yeah, Time Wizard, right? For some of these older decks, but some of the things I've seen people say is what about the decks that get support but the support doesn't bring them up to modern standards. I have two solutions, one of which is domain format, like you mentioned. I think domain format is, while it's not a perfect solution for a lot of people, because some people don't like it, and I don't like singleton and don't like deck building restrictions like that or and everything. That's perfectly fine. Uh, the second one, this is an official Konami sanctioned format. It's official. It's everything like that. It's just they don't support it as much. It's Heart of the Underdog.
Underdog.
So I think what they should do is make more Heart of the Underdog or support it at more events and have a list of archetypes that you're just not allowed to use and everything. One of which, so for right now, the best decks, the cards, the decks that you shouldn't be able to use off the top would probably be Ryziel Malice, obviously, um, Azamina, White Forest, maybe Bestials, and then like a few others and everything, and just have like a list of like 10 archetypes that you can't use. Yubel probably being one of them as well. That you couldn't use, and then people playing that. I think that they should just start supporting that more and just have like a list of like 10 archetypes that you can't use and stuff like that. And I think that that would encourage people to and make a lot more people happy. I still think learning and playing domain or getting like a play group together for it is also fine. Um, I agree. Not every
But
deck needs to be meta viable, but I think
but
that
what about $50 tournament?
Uh, the problem with that is that there's random decks that have seen no competitive play that are expensive for no real reason, and uh,
But I'm saying if you've ever wanted to have fun with your friends
mm,
and you get your locals to do it, $50 tournaments are very fun and funny. And you should send all of your ideas to Michael because he's going to run a new $50 tournament series.
I'm not I'm not gonna actually do that. Uh, but
I'm trying
I
to set him up for failure.
I um I have decided, like I have done it for our locals, where I have
I know
found
you have.
where I have built decks that are good and perfectly functional decks just at $50. I built a Sprite deck for $50. I built a Tearlament deck
But,
for
but what
$50.
does your $50 deck do against Red Eyes Darkness Dragoon Turbo Deep Draw?
Listen, okay, we just don't let them get there. Ash is still in the budget. We will just
AJ got there. That was his deck, was just a Dragoon Turbo deck that deep draws.
I will just say Ash Blossom is in the budget, barely in the budget. We will just Ash the Red Eyes fusion.
People playing Sky Striker and other stuff like that, and AJ's just like, I'm just gonna make a towers that negates and pops things, and I'm gonna draw a lot of cards. Truly a genius of our locals.
That's so funny. I was all like, you could play Pearly, you could play Bright. I don't think anyone was, but yeah, he was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna summon Dragoon and activate, draw a bunch of cards and activate Secret Village.
Yeah, I forgot about the Secret Village too.
hmm
Oh my god, easy.
You could technically, if you are playing a
Sometimes I
cheap
think
enough
they
deck,
deserve. Sometimes I think they deserve that treatment from him, though.
if you are playing a cheap enough deck, you could afford, or you want to cut down on some of the like really good staples. You could technically afford, like and you could afford a side deck. You could play kaiju's. There are kaiju's that are like 10 cents. So like his deck has outs. It's just that they're
I
probably
don't
more.
think anyone was ready for that. They all were
hmm
like, "I'm gonna play Pearly. I'm gonna play this. I'm
I
gonna
don't think
play
any of
Sky
them were playing
Striker."
Pearly. I think they were playing like Sky Striker and maybe Sharks and stuff like that.
I think Robert put Pearly together.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense because when I shared it, he was like, "Shh, don't share the sauce."
Don't share. Yeah, like, and my favorite part is AJ just went, "How do I deal with this? All of this stuff. Got keep draw
hmm
Dragoon with that.
Uh,
Oh god, and he played the field spell too. That's just
I find it funny
like
though, and this is just like talking when we were talking about old formats, and you brought up cards that didn't see play initially and eventually got there. I find it funny that no one during Necros format played Droll and Lock. They all played like mistaken
shared ride.
shared ride or mistaken arrest, and
Yep.
or Thunder King, and I was like, I think this format would be awful. Like people remember it fondly, and people will like sometimes play Necros mirrors and under Necros format and just say no Jin just because, right? To make it fun. And they say it's like it's one of the best formats ever, and it's really like resource intensive and all that. And I'm sitting there thinking, I would
Droll breaks it.
I would just play Droll main deck, and no one would have fun because there's no answer to hand traps during that format, really, other than having an established board. There is none. So,
Like, there was no excuse why they didn't know Droll existed because it came in the same set as Vanity's Emptiness.
and it was played literally like 2 years before that during ruler format because of spellbooks. People were playing it versus spellbooks in the side deck. So it wasn't there wasn't really an excuse. It just people just didn't play it. I don't know. I find it weird when we look back at older formats when they weren't playing certain things and everything. And I think that if more formats were visited or like looked under a scope or whatever of like modern deck building ideas, we would some of the decks, what the best decks would be, would change them. That's what happened with Goat, for example. So Goat, historically speaking, uh, Goat Control was the best deck during that format. However, with people sitting down and tinkering with it, it's not. It's Warrior Toolbox. Warrior, like Chaos Warrior Toolbox or something like that, is like the best deck, bar
You know
none.
what the wildest part about that Warrior Toolbox is? I know I say this every time. That deck existed
Mm.
in the video game. People that ran guides for video games, some of the video games with those older formats like that were like, this is called Warrior Toolbox deck. You play Giant Rat, you play these cards, you Warrior Toolbox in what you need. And it's like, and this will win you every game. This is the best deck you can play. And I look at it and you look at those, and it's so wild to think that such a powerful deck was played in the video games, but no one thought to just throw that together and play it IRL.
Mm-hmm.
It
It
is one of the best decks.
yeah, I know that yeah, it just baffles me, right? I bet you if someone sat down with the card pool long enough and looked at Edison, they would find like an undisputed best deck. Right
Oh
now,
yeah,
right now
Hero Frog right now.
it's Hero Frog. Before that, it was Vayu Turbo, and before that, it was like Black Wings.
Yeah.
So,
But like honestly, I really think Hero Frog is the pinnacle of that format. And that's not just because I'm a frog player. It's because I've watched enough games of Edison where the Hero Frog player just wins when they shouldn't.
well, that's because the decks are incomplete in Edison. None of the
Yeah, and
decks
that deck has
feel
the most completion to it.
none of the decks feel like every deck feels like they're missing something in the worst possible way. Not just that like yeah, this deck got hit on the ban list, but we're still playing it. It's this deck is people trying to play this deck before this future support that makes it actually like viable came out and stuff like that. That's like my big issue with Edison. I brought it up before. My issue with Edison is that none of the decks feel complete. That's why I like Hat. Hat feels like Edison, where you can play a variety of decks, a huge one, and the decks feel like they're complete. They don't feel like they're missing a fundamental thing to make the deck function. So, uh,
Yeah, I get it. That's
but uh, I do think it's funny though that the more we explored Trooper, the less we liked it. It was really funny
oh
that
yeah.
like we were like the biggest proponents of it, and then we started exploring it more, and then we're like, man, this sucks. Like it's fine, I guess, but it's not scratching the same itch that like Hat did for us. So
Need a new format.
so like Hat still is like the kind of like the pinnacle of the format that for like old format, at least I think of the ones that we played so far. I think that's like the best. Uh but that Yugi Kaiba. But Yugi Kaiba I think is only fun because we're not playing it the right way.
Yeah,
I think if we sat there and were as resource intensive and holding back constantly, like like people say to do in those old formats, I think it would be boring. But the fact that you go set pass and I go regeki like immediately, or and just not care and everything.
well, it's because they try and keep it fun by keeping it like it's chess, and
This is
we're basically like
chess.
beginner chess.
This is Call of Duty.
It's Call of Duty. Yeah, no, basically it's like no, actually it's Slapbox.
Slap box. Slap boxing. Chess boxing.
Chess boxing too, yeah. Well, that's even better, just chess boxing. Like you can see it, we get to these strategic moments, and suddenly the game goes, all right, survive this round.
Yeah. Which one is it going to be? The checkmate or am I knocking you out first?
Checkmate.
Uh,
I
yeah.
still got to make that chess uh theme game.
Chess beans. Yeah. what was it? Didn't we like that wasn't the idea of we play like the chess uh scenes and then like we have you have to win with you only have like three checkmates in your deck and you have to win with checkmate or
Yeah,
something.
you have to. I think the modified rule is, I think we modify it to where you have enough checkmates to win. So I think that would be, he's got what, 2,000 attack?
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be four of them. And the only way to do direct damage is through checkmate. And yeah, it was awful.
Uh,
I'm not good at building games.
my thought process when you first explained we play chess fiends, but we make it like actual chess is to have eight vile pawns in the deck, and then two of each of the other ones, and then one queen, and then you just pick whether you want the level 4 or level 8 queen, and the one king, and we do it that way and everything. But you're like, no, I want it more like, and then you kind of explained it. I'm like, okay, that makes more sense, I guess technically. Um, I think this is just how we could like workshop this more, right? Is we could still play like three of each of the things or whatever. Um, Archfiend General being like the only chess piece, Archfiend, we should say, illegal because it searches Pandemonium specifically. You can say we can't attack directly unless it's with the king, and unless it's with checkmate. But the pawns can, and but the pieces can still attack other pieces because they're taking the piece.
Yeah,
Or if
I
you're
think that
stupid, or if you're stupid and you're crashing, you're just saying that you left yourself open and they took the piece and everything. But yeah, we could workshop it. Someone was in domain format was asking about Archfiends, right? And they wanted specifically to build around Chess Fiends, and we're gonna do the Link monster as the deck master. And I was explaining cards and saying like what they should put in, and then I went, I could write a whole dissertation on Archfiend on the Chess Fiend deck.
chess fiends. Yeah,
I think it would be kind of funny to write like this like 10-page paper on the Archfiend, right? And everything. And then just at the end, TLDR or chess fiends. Yeah.
just yeah.
After at the end of 10, it's just in conclusion, chess fiends. Yeah.
God, didn't I write up a stupid dissertation thing
You tried
for
to
the
write
group once?
maybe. I know you tried to write like a script to the Blackwing thing and you tried to record it
I
like
did
three or
that,
four
and I tried to
times.
record that. That one I did, but I know I did like a stupid dissertation on some random thing, and they're like, "What is he on?" And you were just like, "Don't encourage him. It's only going to get worse."
I don't remember what it was either. I think
God, it was like a
I think you were quoting something and no one was getting it, and I said he's quoting this. Like,
no. That's another time, but there was another time when I was like typing up this really long like dissertation of something. I don't remember what it was, and finally you just went, "Okay, we get it, man.
I think we said
You
if maybe I said okay, we get it, you vape.
you've done that one, yeah."
Yeah, I've yelled that at people and everything. Uh, I've yelled that at people and been like, we get it, you vape, when they sit there and just start long winding and explaining things. Um,
I think I long-winded the Blue Eyes deck or something, was just going through this whole entire thing on it. And then, like, I think someone's like, "Well, I don't think you're right." And you say the line that you always say, "Well, out of all of us, I think he's the only one that's made it to the top on Master Duel with that deck." So,
mhm. I mean, out of everyone in our Facebook group, you are the one that has some kind of result with it. I don't, even if it's not technically like a regional top, none of them have a regional top with the deck. Not even Jared, who played the deck for a while, and he's not in that group anymore. But he's never been in that messenger group. But he, even when he played it religiously, he didn't get the top with it. So, uh, it's it's just one of those things. Blue Eyes Primite has a lot of hype right now. I
I
don't.
pulled one of the Primite cards.
Did you pull the continuous spell, the one that's really expensive, the Lordly Load?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's how I knew my day was going to be awful.
I feel it. When I used to play Magic, I mean, it didn't. This didn't work for me, but it worked for our friend Dustin. If Dustin pulled money cards or really really good cards, he was gonna lose. That's how it always worked. If he pulled really good cards, he was destined to lose, and if he played nothing, he was probably gonna win, or at least getting like the freaking prize and everything, and to get store credit. Uh, are you like that with the Yu-Gi-Oh regionals?
I pulled like a $60 card. I had fun. I was winning. Actually, I stopped. Like, my winning thing actually stopped whenever my family's like, we're closing on a new house and we need you, or we're closing on the new house. I saw that Facebook post and I went, shit.
Mm.
My first thought was, yep. And my next round, I just started to lose, and it wasn't really any like skill issue thing. It was, the opponent got it. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, I told them they cursed me.
Mm. You have cursed me and
I,
failed me for the last time.
I had a lot of fun though. Um, I should have topped, I think. I saw where the little mistakes were, but I mean, just the next time I won't make those same mistakes. I
Alright.
found out something.
What
Aggregators of cybers.
is it? I never paid attention to its typing.
My opponent went send aggregator off of this monster that Malice makes. I'm like, it's in the cybers typing. It is. Fan out my graveyard, look at it, and I'll be like, what? And he went, I know it looks like a reptile, but it's a cybers. And I'm just like, what?
Uh, That's funny. Uh, and that's gonna do it for this episode. Cause yeah, we talked for over an hour. We could wrap it up here. If it's your birthday today, happy birthday! If you like the podcast, thanks. Uh, like, commenting, subscribing, all that, share it, blah blah blah. Uh, and of course, and as always, have a wonderful day.